a big fan of this man's work, a very big fan of this man's work, and I could not be more pleased that he's included our show on the tour that we have seen him make over the last couple of days in support of his new film that he has written, that he has directed, and he acts in. It's a beautiful film that is available in theaters, on digital and on demand this very Friday. The writer and directorial debut of the tremendous actor Viggo Mortensen, who's here on the show. How are you, Viggo?
I'm good. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm pleased to have you on this program. Before we get to your movie, I do want to hit you, if you don't mind, right away with a story that I heard you tell on other spots, and I'd love for you to tell my audience as well. Starting out, you're from Watertown, New York, correct? That's where you were born, technically?
No, I was born in New York City.
You were born in
Manhattan, but my mother's from Watertown, New York.
Okay.
And I spent after my parents split up, she went back to her hometown with me and my two brothers, and from the age of 11 through high school, I lived there.
You lived in central New York. Is that how you made your way to Lake Placid on February 22nd, 1980, Viggo?
Yeah, that's correct. I was there during the whole Olympics as a volunteer.
What were you doing at the Winter Olympics, the 1980 Olympics? What were you volunteering doing?
Well, I was going to college nearby in Canton, New York, St. Lawrence University, and January was off, and I got permission to go do this. I volunteered. A couple other people, I think, from there did too. I was supposed to translate for the Danish, team with some cross-country skiers, I guess. And they ended up not coming. I guess they didn't think they stood a chance. They didn't want to spend the energy and the money. I don't know.
Right.
And so they said, well, if you want to translate for the Swedes, and I said, okay. I mean, neither the Swedes nor the Danes really needed that much help to speak English really well. Maybe, I taught them some swear words, I guess. But I just ran errands and, got them stuff and hung out and got to see all these great athletes, amazing athletes. And the best thing about the whole experience for me was that I got to be friends with people on the Finnish team, Finland's team. And they said, if you ever want to see a hockey game, I said, yeah. Can I go to one? They go, sure. And then the next day I went again. And they said, anytime you want to come. I said, great. So I went every night to go see hockey. And we'd stop at the Finland House. Each country had their house where they sort of had tourist pictures and some of their products. And in the Finland House, it was pretty much just vodka. So we'd have a few drinks and go to the game, really in a good mood. And yes, I saw the United States do the impossible with these college players, these kids, really, beating what was probably at that time the greatest hockey team on the planet.
So,
the Soviet Union.
So normally I'd want to immediately delve into this part of the story, and I will, if you don't mind. I will put a pin in it for the moment. So, are you saying you've done vodka shots with Jari Kurri at the 1980 Olympics? Is that what you're saying to me, Viggo Mortensen? That actually happened?
No, Jari. I didn't drink with him. I think he was on his best behavior, at least as far as I can see. But no, it was like other people in the delegation,
okay,
volunteers and people, and yeah.
Ole Saarinen. I mean,
Finland did well too. I think didn't they get third place?
Well, no,
I know they were in the medal.
The U.S. actually, there was a gold medal game. Everybody thinks that when they beat the Soviets,
silver. That's right.
Right. Everybody thinks that when they played
the final with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I always think of the Soviet game as the final.
Right.
Of course.
So then, where were you actually? Where were your seats inside that arena, Viggo? Where were your seats?
It wasn't. It was pretty center along the side, and I'd say. I can't remember. Maybe 8 rows back, 10 rows back. They were great seats actually. They were really, really good. So it was an amazing thing. I didn't think they would win it, but I thought they would give them a good, because you're playing at home in front of your fans, your country, and I knew they would be feisty and just give it all. But I figured, there's no way. And lo and behold, a miracle.
Can you do your best, if you don't mind? I mean, you clearly are a storyteller of note. Again, your film Falling will talk about your writing and directorial debut, but you know what it takes to tell a great story and obviously emote a great story. What can you describe for me what it was like in that arena that night? I mean, walk me through it.
It became bedlam, but there was this growing before they even passed them, in the scoring. There was just this hum, you had this sensation that, wow, maybe, well, nah, it won't, but they're giving them a game. We thought it'd be like they'd get their clocks clean, probably, a lot of people, and they weren't. They were given as good as it got in every area of the game. It just kept growing. It was a feeling that kept growing, and the last part of the game, everybody's on their feet, and it was tremendous. It was an amazing sensation. And after the game was over, I still couldn't believe it. It was incredible. It was just incredible.
Do you have the ticket stub?
I didn't need vodka. I didn't need
Do you have
I didn't even feel the cold when they went outside.
I bet. Did you have a stub or
Sweden got the bronze, right? Did Sweden get the bronze?
I think the Soviets dusted them off. I think the Soviets might have gotten the bronze. You know what? I
can't remember.
I've kind of lost track on that. But do you have a stub or a program from that still, or any memento from that day?
I'm kicking I wish I did. I wish I did. I have my volunteer, laminated pass. That I have with the Lake Placid symbol on it. It's on a little cord or string, I think. I have that stowed away. I don't have the ticket. It's so stupid. I should have kept that.
No, who the heck knows, right? Years later, yes, Sweden did, in fact, win the bronze in the 1980 Olympics.
Yeah, that's right.
Viggo Mortensen here on the Rich Eisen Show. So did, I imagine...
I was happy for them because I was supposed to be working for them, so...
What do you mean?
But they at least got the Swedes. I mean, technically I was there
sure, of
helping
course.
Sweden not to be cheering for the United States and blowing them off.
Banging on the glass if you had gotten a seat so close, So are you a hockey guy? Would you say that's your sport that you follow or at all? Or what would you say?
I'm a Habs fan. When I grew up most of the first decade of my life in Argentina, so soccer was and is the sport I like the most probably, but right next to it, or just as much, I like hockey. When I moved to northern New York State, up by the Canadian border, in 1970, I lost contact. Of course, there was no internet or iPhones or any of that stuff back then. There wasn't even cable TV yet. And there's only a couple of channels, local, regional. I think there was a CBS and an NBC. And then there was, across the way, there was the Canadian channel. And I started to see this sport. And it was Montreal Canadiens. It was their heyday, the 70s. So I started watching them play, and they had the same colors as my soccer team. And the fans were pretty rabid, from Montreal. And I was looking at it, I thought, this is a great sport. This is like soccer, but a lot faster and with sticks, and you can beat the shit out of people. It's unbelievable.
And there's not a lot of flopping. There's just a lot more grinding than flopping.
Yeah, and it was terrific. Guy Lafleur and all those other great players. That was their legendary, the golden age, really, and one of them. But so that's how I became a hockey fan, and I followed them ever since.
Yeah, Ken Dryden was on the call with Al Michaels on that Miracle on Ice night in 1980. I mean, you're talking about Les Habitants, as you refer to the Canadians as the Habs. Viggo Mortensen here on the.
I got to one last thing.
No, go please.
On it.
Please. Yeah.
Their 100-year anniversary was December 4th, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew I was a fan, so they invited me up to Montreal, to the Bell Center, and they were going to, all the legends that were still alive, in wheelchairs, however they could get there, all came, wearing sweaters, and Guy Lafleur was one of them. He was my idol from back then, and they asked me. I said, "Well, we'd like you to present one of the legends if you want before they do their skate around and everything else." I said, "Anyone I want?" And they said, "Sure." If he's not taken, and I guess it was early enough that he wasn't taken. I said, "How about Guy Lafleur?" And they said, "Done." So they got to present Guy Lafleur on center ice at the Bell Center. That was a highlight.
Come on, that is so cool.
Yeah.
That is
it was.
That is so
wonderful.
cool. Viggo Mortensen here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about your film Falling. And you wrote this. Is this true? You wrote this on a plane flight, or you began to write it, and then it's now coming to this beautiful film with you and Lance Henriksen, who's a dynamite actor that so many people have seen from Aliens or The Right Stuff from back in the day, and Laura Linney. What a heck of a cast for your writing and directorial debut, Viggo.
Yeah, I couldn't have had a better cast. I was very fortunate, very, very happy to have them. And Lance Henriksen gives an unforgettable performance. He's astounding, really disturbing sometimes, no holds barred. He's just terrific. I couldn't imagine anyone else doing it better. I think it's a performance that'll stand the test of time. It'll live long in memory. And by the way, there is a nod to Guy Lafleur. I had to get permission from his family and from the NHL, but there's a diner scene. If you look closely on the wall, there's a picture of Guy Lafleur.
Huh.
It takes place in the 70s. It's
great,
flashbacks.
Great Easter egg.
Anyway,
I love it.
I was. It was right after my mother died in 2015, and she had dementia for several years, like Lance's character does in the movie. And, when someone dies you really love, they're very present. Everything about them, images of their, my mom's face from different periods, and stories about her that I could remember and shared with my brothers, and that other people had their versions of the same stories of the funeral, which I thought was strange, how subjective memory is, And then new stories from old people that I'd known her in childhood that I had never met. And so I just wanted to remember that. I wanted to keep it alive. So I'm flying back, long plane flight, overnight. And when I started writing down these things, and I looked at what I was writing down, I thought, this would be a good story. So I wrote it as a short story on this plane. I wrote the whole thing out, fast. And then I put it aside because at the time, I was trying to get another screenplay made into a movie. I've been trying for 25 years to make a movie as a director from different screenplays. And one day I thought I should read that thing I wrote on the plane. It's probably not that great. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night, if you have a notepad by your bed, you scribble some line down or some idea you have maybe. And then the next day you think, oh, that was a great idea. Let me see that. And it's usually not very great. It's like, oh, I wrote a story and I was drunk and it was brilliant. And then you read it. It's like, no.
Right.
So good. But this actually was good. It had a really good structure, the basic structure that the movie has. And all these different points of view, memories from the father's point of view, the kid's point of view. And it isn't, the character that plays my mother in the story was kind of like my mother, but that's the only real thing.
Right.
One of the few things that resemble our actual family. I mean, it's a fiction. I ended up feeling freer, didn't have to check with anybody in the family about facts, just making up a story, but based on the feelings I had from my mom and to some degree from my dad. And I looked at it and said, it's very visual. I can see these memory shots and all these things that I'm describing in the story. Maybe it's a movie instead of a book, And so I started, I wrote that screenplay out. When the other movie fell apart, I started the process of trying to get this made. And it took me about 4 years. And I got Lance Henriksen on board, fortunately, early on. And he, to his credit, he stuck it out through thick and thin, lost the money a couple times, and we finally pulled it together. I called him one day, I said, hey, we're going to finally make the movie, which was a lie. I didn't have the money yet.
Nice.
I just decided I'm going to pretend like I'm making it, and maybe other people, it'll be contagious, will join me, which kind of happened. I just spent a little money. I just said to the cinematographer that I wanted to work with, someone I'd worked with before, a guy from Denmark, really good artist. And I said, bring the camera. Let's go find this farm. Let's go find these locations. Let's start filming because I want to have images for the memories from spring, summer, fall, different seasons. Because nature is really important in the memories of the father and the son to a degree. So we just started. And then eventually I did find a co-producer in Canada and another English guy, and we got it together. But even when I wanted to have 7 weeks, which is not a lot, 5 days a week, 35 days to shoot all that stuff in the winter with kids and their limited hours and, short daylight hours and all that. It was ambitious, but the producer said, all we can get is 5 weeks. I said, oh, man, okay, well. So we figured it out. We got a really good team together. We prepared really well. And then we're we're just a short ways from starting to shoot, and the producer comes over and he says, the co-producer says, I'm sorry, but we only have enough for 2 weeks. I said, well, that's impossible. I can't shoot this in 2 weeks. He goes, yeah, but we'll get the rest probably eventually. It's in the works, but right now you actually have enough money for 2 weeks. Do you want to wait till next year? I said, no, I've been waiting,
4 years. Right, yeah.
And 4 years on this one. So let's start. We got a great team. I couldn't think of a better cast. I mean, it's perfect from the littlest kid up to Lance Henriksen. They're all perfect for their roles.
Well,
and who knows if I'll ever get this together. So let's just start. And he goes, okay, well, there's a risk. I said, that's all right. And so we got really into it, and it was going great. And 2 weeks in, I'd completely forgotten about that conversation. And he comes over to me one day. I was standing outside between setups, and it was kind of cold and snowy. He says, hey, listen, can I talk to you for a minute? I go, sure. What's up? And he goes, well, you can finish. I go, finish? Yeah. You mean today? And he goes, no, I mean, you can finish the movie. I said, of course we're going to finish the movie. It's going great. And he goes, no, I mean, you have enough money to finish the movie. I said, oh, yeah, you have enough money for 5 weeks now. I said, oh, great. Thank you. So that's how that went.
Action. And then you just call action, and then you just go back to doing it. And it's a beautiful movie, Viggo. And people with parents who suffer from dementia will recognize a lot of the signposts and moments that are heartbreaking and also. I guess what's the word for it? Exasperating. And
well, yeah, and the problems that there's hardly any family that doesn't have some communication problems, some disagreements. And this one, obviously, the son and the father, they butt heads a lot and have their whole lives together, probably. And that makes it even harder. He's not an old man who wants any help from anybody. He's just a tough bastard, and he's really offensive to people. He just pushes people away. He's isolated, and he's bitter, and he seems to want it that way. And yet he's my dad, so I want to help him. And I realize to help him, I'm probably the only person he'll accept even minimal help from.
Right.
But in order to help him, so he doesn't shut me off, I'm going to have to take. I say to him, I'm not. You can insult me all you want. I want to help you, Dad. So I'm not going to, I promise myself I'm not going to get into another big blowout with you. Have at it, but I'm not responding to that. So he tries, and most of the movie he manages to hang in there because he realizes if I want to help him, I'm going to have to take a lot of crap. And he does over and over again until it finally just blows up. And that it's a movie that I didn't think of it at the time when I started writing it, but it's become, unfortunately, in some ways really timely because what's happening in a lot of families, not to mention in society as a whole in our country, obviously, is that we're at an all-time high as far as people not talking to each other and people not communicating well. Obviously, it's not just politicians, it's just people in the country, and we have to sort of try to remember, just like this family in Falling does, let's think back at a time when we actually could talk and sort of listen to each other at least a little and work things out, make some deals. Try to just listen to people that you don't agree with. At least give them a chance, and hopefully they'll give you a chance. We got to get back to that, And so it feels very timely in that regard too. I think a lot of people know that feeling of why can't I talk to my friends anymore? Why can't I talk to some people in my family anymore over some political thing or something? It's just ridiculous.
Falling again in theaters, on digital, and on demand this Friday. Viggo, before I let you go. Out of all the films and people that you have acted with, and I would love, if you don't mind, to give me a Gene Hackman story you might have from Crimson Tide. He turned 91 over the weekend. Do you have a good Gene Hackman story that you can share with us?
That was an awesome experience. Both watching Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington was great. I lived near the studio where we were shooting, and I didn't work every day because I had like a supporting part. But on my days off, I went all the time just to watch those two go at it as artists, as actors. It's like a boxing match verbally. It was really cool. I learned a lot watching those guys. And Gene Hackman was he was crusty, but he was always. He was always on the set, always talking with the crew, always hanging out. He had a little dog, if you remember, in that movie.
Yes,
his character had a little dog on the submarine, and he was just hanging out with the dog. drinking coffee with the grips and the people there, and just hanging out. He never went to his trailer and hung out, whereas other actors often do that. He was just always on the set, always interested in what's happening, always mentally getting ready, but just relaxing and enjoying the company of people. And that's my kind of actor. I think that's why I wanted to direct. I've always liked the collective aspect, the team aspect of making movies. I always thought it was great to see how you could take something written down to the screen, and what is that journey? All these different people with different skills. When it works, when it's well led and people communicate well, it's amazing to see what people can do. They can turn a so-so script into a great movie. And I've seen really great scripts turn out badly as movies because people didn't communicate in that way. But Tony Scott was a very good communicator. That was a great crew, and Gene Hackman, he was a master in his art form, and so he was at the top of his game at that time.
I think I know what you mean by crusty, but what do you mean by crusty? To call him crusty?
He didn't suffer fools. I mean, he was just, I don't mean crusty old. I just mean he was like, he was, former Marine and just a tough guy and fair, but tough. He didn't, he hated anybody sucking up to him or interrupting him or anything like that. So it was like, you had to be on guard and respectful and just like watch him and learn, basically.
And just watching him and Denzel go at it is what you're saying. Just watching them in their scene.
I love that. Yeah,
right?
It was really great. It was fun to watch. Sparks were flying, that's for sure.
And was it always hot on the set? Or they were just putting perspiration on you in between? Because it looked pretty damn hot.
It was sort of warm, but they were mostly, Tony Scott seems to love that. Ridley Scott, too.
Of course.
He's always sweaty.
I'm sure.
But, and the submarine, it is actually, tends to be very warm. And so that made sense to a degree.
I just figured I'd ask those questions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sweaty. Right? I
bet.
And I guess he was trying to emphasize the stress of the situation, the nuclear weapons, and everything that was going on in that story.
Viggo, thank you for the call. I hope to do this again for the next time that you have a movie coming out that you want to talk about, or any other time. I'm a big fan. Thank you for the call.
Thank you so much. Go Habs.
There you go. Go Habs. There you go. And but a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, you'll still love falling. Don't hold that against him. Thanks for the call.
You will.
Take care, Viggo. That's Viggo Mortensen, the writer and director and actor, 3-time Oscar nominee. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.